Hello and welcome again to the Cliff Notes podcast, where we ask a leader and find the way. Today I'm joined by Suzi Baker, and she works for Balance Web Marketing. Hello today, Suzi.
Hi, good morning, Tristan.
Could you give us a little bit of a background of what you do in the sort of PR and marketing world?
Yes, certainly. I work for myself, freelance, for a range of clients, and projects can vary. I will be working perhaps on a Google AdWords campaign, now Google Ads, as it's known now, Bing, social media across many of the platforms, or I might be training an in-house member of staff or an employee how to use those platforms and how best to get the best out of them. I may be interviewing for a blog post, which may involve travelling to visit the interviewee or doing it remotely, depending on their location. It can vary hugely now as the change in the industry has developed and content marketing has become more important over the last year.
Okay. And what sort of clients do you work with? What sort of these businesses?
It's variable. I do say that I specialise in interiors and marketing, which is where the bulk of my workload lies. But I also work for an electrical contractor, in hospitality, some lifestyle, and I'm about to take on a project for a local sort of council-run organisation. So it can vary hugely, and I don't actually promote my services. People tend to find me. So what I do is each time I chat with them and just see if I'll be a good fit for them. I find that's the best way to get the most out of the working relationship.
So do you find you have a sort of a screening process or a set of checklists that show that someone would be a good fit to work together?
Not a hard and fast checklist, but I think because I'm used to interviewing people from a background in publishing editorial, I'm very quick at ascertaining what they're after and the expectations, and perhaps then that helps me gauge the resource that will be required, whether it's kind of a job that I can do, or perhaps it needs to be passed on to or divided up with other professionals that may be more specialist in that particular area. So it really can vary quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. And does that mean therefore you're augmenting an in-house team, or you connect and put together other people to work with you as an agency?
Yes, absolutely. I may work with other associates who I've worked with in the past. I might connect them with other associates that I've worked with previously at other agencies. Or I may well suggest that the best thing to do if they have a marketing team is that I come in and run some training, which may be training for across a sales team, even on social media in some cases, but where they have a dedicated marketing person, I find it's a good idea to run through social media in particular, because it does cross over quite closely now, even more so with customer services.
Great. And does that mean that sales often is the key contact that you're working with, or do you work with management, or where do you find that you connect with most?
I connect with management mostly, on the whole, or business owners if it's a smaller company. And often I find it varies. Often the larger companies will have somebody in top management who is experienced on social media, which is really, really helpful, because a voice online from a third party is perhaps not on its own as powerful as a personality from that business being active in their own marketing campaign on social media.
Yeah. So you're producing some of the content, but maybe you're also coaching them how to produce some pieces themselves too?
I do coach them in how to produce content, but it certainly varies. Time resource, I think, where it comes to producing content, has the bulk of that does come down to me. I will make suggestions for topics or personalities to feature, but I've been lucky actually. I've been given pretty much a free hand to source those interviewees or topics myself, and usually they go down okay.
That's great. And have you found that there's a good adoption? It sounds like you're working with sort of industrial companies often and interior companies. Have they embraced sort of social and digital media? Um, is this, and therefore, is it with their customers or more sort of business to business arrangements that you're helping with?
More business to business. It does cross over into customers, but it's certainly B2B predominantly that I work on. It's funny, it can cross over more to trying to reach the end consumer, where they may have quite a large say in what they're looking for. And when it comes to, say, fitting out a house refurbishment, perhaps the consumer might have hired an architect and an electrical contractor, say, for example, and each of them has a say in the buying process. So the consumer might want one thing, and then the architect might suggest something else, and then the electrical contractor, who's got to go out and, say, source a product, may say, well, actually, this is my regular supplier, so I suggest you have these. So it can change even during that specification and buying process. So it's about being able to reach often many personas, and you sort of start off thinking that it's just B2B, but actually sometimes it does cross over into B2C.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And have you found this world is still evolving, or is it's changed a lot in the last few years?
I think it has changed with the sort of sea of noise online, and certainly traditional PR has now had to embrace SEO, social media as part of its um, package that's offered. And the challenges for agencies that I've seen, where I've freelanced in-house for a PR agency or a media agency, for them has been trying to source professionals that work, with those new ways of communicating, or new tools that have to be integrated into a traditional print-based industry. And that's been fairly recent that I've seen that firsthand from working within agencies in the interiors sector, particularly, and also media agency that specialises in property, for example. So it's been fascinating for me to see it from inside an agency, but also because I work predominantly client side, I see it from the customer's perspective as well. So for me, it's been a really broad view on the changes that are happening, and how to adapt to those and make it work for my clients.
Okay, and do you think this is just the world is changing very fast, or is just there's a lot of things going on for people to take on
I
board?
think it's a lot of things. I think you've probably hit the nail on the head. I think things do change quickly, certainly, and there are always new things being added to the various platforms. Say Instagram. First of all it was static images, then it was stories, and now they have Instagram TV, and there are other little things going on. Um, and each platform, has his own preferred way that people use it. Some platforms encourage lots of posts. Others say quality rather than quantity. There's hashtag rules and all sorts of things. So I think there's been lots of changes happening with availability of platforms to communicate with, and also there's a sea of noise here that clients have to cut through and think, right, what is it I need, how do I use these to the best of my ability, what resource have I got? And it's that challenge then to decide what's going to work best, often perhaps with no data, because they may not have tried something before, have got nothing to refer to. So there are various challenges that I get involved with helping them with, whether it's choosing platforms or deciding, okay, this is where we're going to go with this, because actually our audience aren't interested in, say, Facebook or Twitter, but actually they're all on LinkedIn. So what can we do using this platform to the best result?
Hmm. And without talking about the sort of the practicalities of how you make these posts and what you do with them, I mean, what's it going to help with, and what's the what are you trying to achieve, or the business goal that that someone might give you to improve?
I think that, well, there can be several goals. Obviously, to reach the relevant audience, wherever they are. So if they're choosing to use certain platforms, be there and present material that's going to be useful, perhaps problem solving, of interest to them, without bombarding them with sales messages. So and really spending time engaging with them, and what they're saying as well is really, really crucial, and listening, um, rather than, as I say, just bombarding sales messages. And it has that kind of ripple effect, once perhaps you've written a blog post and then you're sharing on social media, but it's about giving social media. You give space for people to have a voice. You could highlight a creative perhaps, who works in isolation, who needs to reach, say, a manufacturer, um, whose products they may not have seen before. And you can connect those two people by using content marketing, creating this content that other, say, creatives in isolation might be interested in, or other manufacturers, can identify perhaps a designer they want to work with that they may not have come across before. So it's kind of providing something useful, of interest, a platform for a voice, but also giving people useful information and making it easy for them to find that. So it doesn't have to be totally targeted, but related to your industry or what you do, so that it'll be of interest and relevant.
And I guess the other side of it is, but does it work? These presumably are not young kids with their face very close to their telephone screen all the time. Does it work to talk to these people on sort of social media and different digital platforms?
Absolutely, absolutely. Working in-house, say, for one of my main clients, Focus SB Limited, who are a luxury electrical wiring accessories manufacturer, certainly I've seen leads come in directly from social media, having been working on the social media platforms with them. And that's where, as I say earlier on, it does starts to cross over with customer services, because people suddenly, they're so busy, they're on all these platforms, they're trying to run their business. They perhaps don't want to suddenly think, oh, I've got to go and find the email address, or I've got to go onto the contact form. I'm just going to ask the question on social media. So you kind of have to be reactive more on social media now, which is something I try and um, impress upon my clients. It's not just about putting out a post, or liking a post and then thinking, right, I've ticked that box for the day. You may have your day planned out, but suddenly there's a conversation, and it benefits you to be reactive and be there. Certainly, that was the prediction by the industry, that social media was certainly going to become more reactive. So again, you've got then the issue of managing expectations, and I think people presume you might be there 24/7. So, you have to make certain things clear, so that they think, oh, you're not coming back to me, and I want an answer now. So, managing that, but certainly I have seen leads coming in hard and fast from that, and people engaging with blog posts as well, certainly chatting about it. And that person that's been featured, shares that blog post and gets feedback, and then interest is drawn in from other channels that you just didn't see. So I think it does work, absolutely, but in a very subtle way. It's not black and white.
But the short version is that there is tangible results you can see. It's not just vanity
Yeah.
metrics.
Yes.
I mean, I've certainly seen that on say Twitter and LinkedIn. It
Mm,
can be actually quite interesting, and you can shortcut a lot of processes for the networking in some ways, because the people with the time to be able to give a bit of time to these processes during the day are the senior management or the sales teams, and sometimes it can take a while to get a call or to make friends or find these people through traditional channels, whereas it's a bit more like networking and a bit more the barriers are down a little bit more, and people are a bit more open to communication through these channels.
absolutely right. Yes, they
Mm-hmm.
are, and they do engage very quickly on LinkedIn. I certainly find very useful for networking. And Twitter I use for developing relationships with journalists because they're all there. Um, and that worked very well for me at the beginning of this year, and I succeeded in getting an interview with a journalist at the Telegraph for Focus SB Limited, who were featured, which then someone at the BBC saw, and they got featured on the national news. That's how things can snowball, really.
That's great. And these sort of processes, that do you find they don't require installing large new IT systems or processes? You can adopt more open platforms, or just participate in things that are already available.
Yes, certainly. I think it certainly makes it accessible for people to just participate very, very easily. You know, people are on their phones participating, or they if they haven't had time during the week, it makes it accessible to participate with things at the weekends. It very much opens up the door to kind of get rid of a 9 to 5, um, having to squeeze everything into 9 to 5. People can work more flexibly and be there and chat to other business connections or whatever, at other times, should they so choose. It really does open up the door.
And after the sort of the doing work, do you find sort of education and training becomes part of your regular practice with people?
Yes, it does. Training certainly where I see, there's misunderstanding or perhaps anxiety about starting to use, particularly social media, really. So I do engage with staff, say, or employees in the larger organisations, just to go through things and get them in the habit of having a go and not being frightened of doing so. I say, what's the worst that can happen? You just delete your tweet. Um, and I just advise them to say, see it as networking, but online. And it can sort of open up conversation, and then you can perhaps arrange to go and meet them in person where you're more comfortable, with which people still do want, the face to face, and they want to see samples, they want to handle if it's a product. That personal relationship is still really, really crucial and important, but certainly social media can be a starting point to build that relationship.
That makes sense. So, like networking events or conferences, but you don't have the upfront cost of a large booth and transporting parts of machinery.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of my own education and training, I do try and obviously stay up to date with industry and my own industry, but also the industries of my clients as well. So it makes me um, able to communicate on a certain level when I am working for them. And I network also with other professionals in my industry. I'll perhaps sit Google exams or listen to webinars, anything that's available. It's all accessible.
And how do you find it's good to update yourself or make yourself more aware of sort of products and techniques?
I find it essential. And then, it's making yourself aware and then obviously applying it to perhaps your own needs or your customers' needs. If it's not required, then fine, but you're aware of it.
So you might sit with the product owners or the other team members to learn more about the product too, and be able to to sort of reflect that rather than just being someone at the end of a telephone far away sort of thing.
Definitely. I find educating myself about my client's product or service is absolutely essential for me to be able to be effective when I'm communicating on behalf of them online, or perhaps planning a blog post or campaign for advertising. I just find it gives me that edge. If I can, it's I'm kind of essentially selling, but not selling. You become almost part of the sales team. So I think it's essential to really get under the skin of a company's product and ethos as well.
Great. And thinking on a bit of a higher level, have you seen some what the challenges and things that face the current market that you're working with, and how they're dealing with it?
I think the biggest changes in the industries that I work in is that in the early days, agencies set themselves up as SEO, pay-per-click, and obviously then there are PR agencies, traditional PR agencies, which actually my very first job was in a PR agency in London before I moved off into publishing. And what I've seen is that they've suddenly realised, actually, I need to work with you to give my, to be able to give a full offering to that client who wants to get everything from one place. Make it convenient for my clients. So a PR agency may have to work either closely with an SEO agency, and then obviously hire their own perhaps social media expert. They then may prefer to have an SEO expert in-house rather than working with a separate agency, because there are often kind of difficulties communicating what the business needs are and the needs of the client, and managing the process of giving that service. The processes of managing to give that service effectively and cohesively to the client, because of kind of gaps in communication or perhaps misunderstandings, or not so much knowledge about the client's product, where perhaps the PR may have a great understanding and relationship with their client who they've been working with for years, and they've suddenly found themselves having to hire an outside agency who knows nothing about their client's business or product. And there's that difficulty of educating them and communicating what they want. And I've kind of seen that lead to more PR agencies wanting to hire in-house, perhaps SEO support and definitely social media. And often they'll expect the SEO to be able to do paid search marketing campaigns as well. So I've certainly found that I've been in demand because I have experience across all of those areas. And I've been able to be adaptable as the industry has changed. So for me, my background has helped me move across seamlessly, working for SEO agencies, traditional TV and media, PR and marketing, and it's I've seen the kind of challenges sort of firsthand, and I think PRs are now, it's settling now as they do find experts to work with. So it's certainly kind of becoming the norm, but they work very differently, I think, still to somebody working in-house or client side, who can kind of give that extra support to employees within an organisation and help them move forward with their own internal processes.
Seems it's coming across. I don't know whether this is just from the way maybe you're saying you work, or it's a bit broader, but a PR or working with PR isn't necessarily just for a launch or a large business change. It actually works as a supporting process to the sales funnel and the business process.
That's right. Yes, it's ongoing. It's a permanent service for certainly bigger organisations to have a PR on board. I've worked, my own background included working as an editor, for example, on a trade magazine, where I would have to deal with press releases on a regular basis, meet PR teams, as well as meeting manufacturers across Europe. And most of those large manufacturers had an onboard PR working for them, albeit in those days, it was sort of 2008, it was very much traditional PR, so print, exhibitions, product launches, but there would always be ongoing PR work in the background where releases were being created and submitted for publication to various trade magazines or consumer magazines where relevant. So certainly there is that need for some kind of ongoing PR, whether it be social media input or this kind of regular press release support, um, to bring visibility to the company, and that can be online or offline. They certainly work well together still.
You brought us onto the sort of a bit more of your sort of history and successes in these sort of different industries. Do you have any sort of case studies or takeaways points for the listeners that can help them improve their business and how to work in this area?
I think to be open to change as the online landscape does evolve so quickly, so to be aware of what's out there when you're looking to hire somebody. I think it's worth looking around, perhaps at agencies, perhaps at freelancers like myself, who perhaps work with other agencies and associates who can provide, all the professional services that you're looking for via one contact. For example, I'm working closely with a branding agency that found me via LinkedIn, and we work together and recommend each other, and it works well. Where the client needs those extra services, you can make them available. So I think it's looking around at deciding what you want, looking around at what's available, and really looking into the kind of projects that those people perhaps have worked on, and so you can kind of see an affinity, which will help with the working relationship. And certainly I would say communication is key. So talk to a few different agencies or freelancers before you hire somebody, and get a feeling about that person, whether you think they understand what you're saying, what you want, your goals. Are they going to be able to communicate those effectively? How do you feel about that person? And that certainly leads to a positive working relationship.
So in an industry that's so much about sort of connecting and talking to people, that it is a good chance that the people you get on well talking with yourself are likely to be able to get on well with talking to your audience too, your customers.
Absolutely right. I think so. I think, listening to each other, managing expectations, and being very clear about um, what you're looking to do online and who you're trying to reach, and can that person that you're hiring or that agency um, understand what you're trying to get across to your potential customer, and are they able to speak in your tone of voice? Can you rely on them to do something perhaps without, your say so? Perhaps if they've got to be reactive because something's going on online, and they're your voice, can you trust them to just get on with it almost, and without giving them the say so and go ahead on every single thing? I think that's a real skill and a real really important to a successful working relationship.
That sounds really useful to take on board. Um, it's been really great talking with you today and hearing about the work that you've been doing. Is there anything you've been working on that you'd like to tell us about a bit more, uh, and let the rest of the listeners listen to?
Yes, certainly. I've been very fortunate to be working with local company in Hastings. Well, actually, there's St Leonard's on Sea, which is just outside of Hastings. Focus SB, luxury electrical wiring accessories manufacturer, who um, through a lot of hard work on their own part, because they were unable to qualify for government funding, have now become the first and only UK manufacturer of luxury electrical wire accessories to be licensed to manufacture and export products to China. So it's been a great experience for me to be involved with that challenge, and a really exciting time to be involved in a historic moment in electrical engineering. The learning curve is huge, because obviously it's a different culture, dealing with China. So it's been a very exciting project for me to be working on, and obviously a very, very exciting time for the company.
It sounds like a big plan, big stuff going on. So we'll look forward to chatting with you again and finding out how that went on. And so if anyone wanted to be able to get in contact with you and be able to ask more about this, or potentially get you on board to work with them and help improve their business through this PR and marketing, what's the best way of getting in contact?
Certainly LinkedIn is a good place to find me. I'm active in there, where it's where I do most of my networking. Or if they preferred to visit a website, I'm at balancewebmarketing.co.uk. So yeah, happy to chat on the phone, email, but LinkedIn is a great place to connect, certainly.
And any particular type of businesses or particular work that you most like to take on and chat about?
My niche specialities, manufacturing and interiors, I think are the two areas that I do tend to focus on. I've had a background in flooring manufacturing, now electrical accessories manufacturing, and also actually I've worked for a kitchen manufacturer as well, bespoke kitchens. So I've had quite a broad experience in manufacturing on both sides of the workload, as it were. I've had experience on both sides, marketing and working in-house as part of a team at a manufacturer's. So I've got that insight. I've also worked for an interior designer as well. So I've seen it from certainly the interior designer's point of view. And I network very closely with interior designers on a regular basis. And network via Grant Pierce, actually, Interior Style Hunter, who is amazing at getting interior designers together and discussing topics around marketing and the challenges for people, isolated creatives who really need help with this.
Great. Well, we'll link all those up in the show notes as well. And I hope everyone else has been able to take away as much good insight and value as I've been able to learn from you today. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Tristan. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks for taking your time. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Cliff Notes podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me or the guest on the show, as always, you can follow us at Cliff Notes Pod on Twitter and holdingbay.co.uk/podcast for all the latest episodes and show notes and transcripts. Please like, share and subscribe to us on iTunes or your favourite other provider, Spotify, Libsyn, SoundCloud. We're available where you need. So thanks for joining us, speaking to great leaders and finding the way.